A protest urged by hacker collective Anonymous got out of hand Sunday when participants began to march. The demonstration was a response to the Albuquerque Police Department's shooting of James Boyd, a local mentally ill homeless man. Around noon, protesters left APD headquarters and began moving east down Central. The protesters would continue to march back and forth along Central between San Mateo and 5th for several hours.
Were you speaking to me?
Yeah, that was
What? All right, well, correctly, I ask everybody as well, you are not going to win, and if you want 3 meals and a cot, that's what you're going to get. If you're looking for death, this is the wrong way.
Around 5:15 p.m., protesters and police met in the first of the evening's 4 standoffs. The two sides met at the intersection of 5th and Roma. Police donned gas masks and protesters circulated vinegar-soaked rags in anticipation of an escalation resulting in tear gas. Vinegar is used to neutralize the effects of tear gas. Tensions lowered after about 1 hour when protesters began to disperse. By 6:45 p.m., police had retreated and most protesters had marched away. Protesters proceeded to march down I-25. After exiting the interstate, the group continued east along Central to UNM. At the intersection of Central and Yale, 3 protesters climbed streetlights around 7 p.m. The protesters reached as far east as the Triangle substation on Central in Girard. About 20 protesters climbed on top of the building, while another wrote FTP and an A in red spray paint on the station. The majority of protesters urged the others not to engage in vandalism. At 8:15 p.m., the march turned back and headed west down Central before meeting police. The two groups engaged in the evening's second standoff as police blocked Central near Vassar. Alongside horseback officers, multiple armored cars, and prisoner transport vans, police ordered the protesters to disperse. Protesters responded with shouting. Some protesters threw rocks and other objects at the police line. The confrontation lasted about 30 minutes before the protesters moved west down Central past the police barricade. At this point, around 9 p.m., the protesters split into 2 groups. One group continued west down Central to downtown. The other group, about 100 protesters, remained to confront a police barricade at Central and Columbia in the third standoff of the evening. Tensions rose quickly as protesters ignored police orders to disperse north towards UNM. At 9:20 p.m., police deployed tear gas on the protesters. The gas spread north onto the UNM campus, across Johnson Field, and eventually entered the dorms. UNM received reports of tear gas entering Redondo Hall and Coronado Hall. The crowd dispersed following the deployment of tear gas. At about 9:40 p.m., police had vacated the area. Meanwhile, the remainder of protesters had marched back to Roma and 5th. Around 10 p.m., protesters and police met in the evening's 4th standoff. Similar to the incident at Central and Columbia, police ordered the crowd to disperse and the protesters refused. Around 11 p.m., police deployed tear gas for the second time of the night. Following this dispersal, a group of protesters reformed and marched towards Central before slowly dispersing at midnight. This is Chloe Henson reporting for the Howl.